Welcome to Life Talk with Mariette. I am Mariette. This show is about the life lessons that shape us, what I've learned, what I'm still learning, and how we grow through challenge, awareness, and purpose. I will share personal insights to motivate and inspire you, and sometimes invite guests who do the same. At its heart, Life Talk is about real stories, real growth, and meaningful connection. This is Life Talk with Mariette. Motivational, inspirational, full of heart. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to Life Talk with Mariette. I'm your host, Mariette Kammerer. And today's topic is how purpose becomes medicine, when meaning heals more than medicine ever could. We often think of medicine as something we take, a pill, a therapy, a treatment plan. But what if healing begins much earlier with meaning itself? When we lose our sense of direction, our body knows it. The immune system weakens, fatigue settles in, and joy quietly fades. Yet when we reconnect with what gives us purpose, something larger than our own worries, our energy changes, our body responds, and our life begins to feel lighter again. That's what we're going to discuss today. So let's get started. You tuned in to Life Talk with Mariette. I'm your host, Mariette Kammerer. We're discussing today how purpose becomes medicine, because purpose isn't an abstract idea. It's biology in motion. It changes our chemistry, our choices, and the way we wake up in the morning. Over the next 4 segments, we'll explore how purpose heals from the inside out, how it moves us from survival to revival, how pain can transform into power, and how living with intention becomes our greatest daily prescription. So, our segments are the cure within, from survival to revival, turning pain into power, and living as medicine. And we're moving from segment to segment. And in a little bit, I will also explain the difference, what survival mode really means. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So let's start with segment number 1, the cure within. Rediscovering what gives life meaning. And I ask myself, why does having a sense of purpose affect our physical health? Well, purpose activates the brain's reward and motivation circuits, releasing dopamine and endorphins that reduce inflammation and boost immunity. As a matter of fact, 2019, a JAMA study found that older adults with a strong sense of purpose had a 43% lower risk of death from any cause. That's very interesting, isn't it? A JAMA study, JAMA, in 2019, you can look it up, found that older adults with a strong sense of purpose had 43% lower risk of death. Now, I like to hear that. I really, really do. How do we know when we're lost, when we have lost touch with meaning? You know, that was very easy for me to figure out. When joy fades from daily life, when busy replaces fulfilled, or when fatigue feels emotional rather than physical. These are signs we're disconnected from our internal compass. Now, we all know what busy feels and what fatigue feels. Emotional fatigue rather than physical. So we know when we have fatigue, physical, and we just know the difference. So let's dive into a little further. Now, you can't medicate emptiness, but you can awaken meaning. Just wanted to throw that in. Can small things restore that sense of meaning? I say yes, because purpose isn't found in one grand act. It's built through daily intention. cooking a meal with care, mentoring someone, or creating something beautiful reignites self-worth. And yes, there are many people that are still going to work, still have a part-time job, but then there are people that they settled. They have enough money in their life. They don't understand what survival mode really means. And I will share that in a little bit. And they're all set. They can buy anything they want. So, and all of a sudden, it just slowly goes into the survival mode and you will feel it. Your lights go out. You don't feel alive anymore. You have feelings like that. You know what I'm saying? So, through daily intentions, and for me, cooking a meal with care, because I'm always rushing, and I like to cook a meal for myself on weekends where I don't have to rush. I don't have to watch the phone. I don't have to answer the phone. I don't have to do texts. To really cook a meal with care is something special. I should do that more often. I always mentor someone. I'm always busy mentoring someone. And I'm always creating something beautiful. So I have to say that ignites me. And we all have to find those are all just suggestions. Doesn't mean you have to go by the list I'm suggesting. Everybody ticks differently. So that's all I want to say. Those are just examples because I'm aware of what works for me won't work for you. I know all of that. But I have to come up with some samples. And the easiest for me is if I talk about myself. So, what are the first steps in rediscovering the cure within? I thought about that. What do they mean? Well, then I said, when when do I really feel most alive? And your answer is your medicine. I said, okay. Follow the feeling, not the logic. When I feel mostly alive is when I come up with a project, with a certain purpose. And it's like a tailor making a suit for you. And the customer has a certain idea, and the tailor says, leave it up to me. I know the style. You like this? Yeah, that's the style. I will make it for you, and it will fit to a T. This is what my work is all about. I figure out pathways for individuals and design them just like an architect. And then when my client hears about the direction and the details, they're floored. They're happy. Oh, I didn't think this was possible. Yes, it is. So that's what brings me alive. So that was my answer. When do I feel most alive? Yes, when the suit or the dress fits to my client. And I love that because I see things they don't see. Meaning often returns not from doing more, but from feeling more. That's so true. And we can have an abundance of feelings. I'm still searching for it as well. But I do care about all of this very, very deeply. And personal growth and understanding our feelings and thoughts and behavior is just something really, really that uh, I have great knowledge in and great living experience. So, and I think I have enough time before we go for our first break to explain what survival mode really means. Okay, here it goes. When people hear the words survival mode, they often think of not having enough money, not enough time, not enough help. But survival mode isn't just about the outside world, it's what's happening inside of us. It's not about being broke, it's about being disconnected. Some of the most successful people live in survival mode every single day. They have the money, the cars, the home. They can buy anything and everything they want, but they can't buy peace. They can't buy ease. And they can't buy the feeling of being safe inside their own body. Listen to this. They can't buy the feeling of being safe inside their own body. We would never dream of thinking such things because we see the outside, they have this, they have that. No, they're not in survival mode. They have everything. It's really about that they're disconnecting, they're disconnected with themselves, that they are become disconnected. Survival mode is a state of the nervous system. It's what happens when the body says, I don't trust that I can relax. I have to stay ready. And this is so true. I like to give you an example. When I was in the finance business of 20 years, and we look at somebody's financial portfolio, and they really, really have oodles of money. And one of the clients always felt she never had enough money. The numbers just did not jive with her internal compass. She always had this restlessness of not having enough money. There you go. This is an example. This is a true story, by the way. So, survival mode, I'm repeating, survival mode is a state of the nervous system. It's what happens when the body says, I don't trust that I can relax. I have to stay ready. It's the person who lies awake at 2 a.m. replaying conversations. The achiever who can't stop working because slowing down feels like danger. That's so true. I have gone through that too. Um, when I lived in Europe and I was building my business, I could never relax enough to actually go on a 2 week vacation quickly to Italy or Switzerland because it was out of the question. I said it's just not possible. When I stop now, it just will hurt my business. So it's very true. I can relate to that. I felt the same way. So the parent or partner who's smiling on the outside but running on empty inside. So what do I say? The brain doesn't know the difference between real threat and imagined threat. When we live on alert, our chemistry changes. Adrenaline rises, cortisol floods the system, digestion slows, and sleep fades. That's survival mode. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. A quiet exhaustion that feels endless. And I like to bring to your attention, just think of somebody who is really all set. With money, they got they got more than they outlived their money. And what I'm saying is they will have plenty of money left over when they pass on. And they're still worried and they can't quiet it down. So how can a person find inner peace? That's what's important here to look at. So, and a person who has a lot of money where they can move very freely throughout the world, that's one thing. But take a person who really has financial problems. They lost their job, they can't find a job, savings are running out, they start having problems paying their bills, and so forth, and even putting food on the table. It's the same worry. And it's easy to say, oh, the person with all this money, what do they shouldn't be? They don't know. No, 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 no. Both are important because both have a big, big effect on the body. With a high bank number and without a high bank number, it's the same thing. So we need to know that. We need to be sensitive to that and really how it affects the body. But here's the good news. We can move from survival to revival. And that shift begins with one thing, purpose. So you take a person who has a lot of money. They may not necessarily have a purpose. Maybe Thursday they do tennis and Saturday they swim and on Tuesday they do. What do I know what lifestyle people have? Everybody's different. But let's just say. But giving them a purpose that they're still needed has nothing to do with money. Like helping out in a soup kitchen or mentoring a child or an adult, giving of their wisdom and caring deeply what's happening to other human beings. That's very important. So, and the people that have financial problems or job loss, or they lost their job through health and so many other life situations, it's helping them. It's really, really helping them to bridge that temporary status, because if they don't get help, it might really end up in a permanent situation. That's what I'm trying to point out. They need help. They really need help. And also giving them a new direction, sitting down with them and giving them a new direction. This is what I do as well. So it's horrible, but I have to understand what's really happening. I have lived it throughout my life. I know the ins and outs of life adversity, whether it's job or health, just about any life situation. And that's the difference. It's not somebody who's book smart. It's somebody who's life smart. And that, I have to say, I bring to the table. Purpose tells the body you're safe now. You belong, you're needed. It gives the mind something to move forward or toward instead of away from it. So it gives the mind something to move toward instead of away from it. And when we reconnect with what gives us meaning, the body begins to heal naturally, deeply, beautifully. So maybe survival isn't about what's missing in your life. Maybe it's about what's missing in your heart and the courage to listen when it whispers, I'm ready to live again. So we're going for a break and we'll be right back. We're back from our break. You're tuned in to Life Talk with Mariette. I am Mariette, on the web, lifetalkwithmariette.com. And please visit our YouTube channel, Life Talk with Mariette. Subscribe and like. And in segment 2, we're discussing from survival to revival. That sounds great. Shifting from fear to purpose mode. And what does survival mode do to the body? Well, chronic stress floods the system with cortisol and adrenaline, keeping the body in a fight-flight loop. This weakens immunity, slows healing, and clouds decision-making. Do you hear what I said? The fight-flight loop, we've heard those words in many areas, right? So chronic stress floods the system with cortisol and adrenaline, keeping the body in a fight-flight loop. This weakens immunity, slows healing, and clouds decision-making. Over 70% of adults say stress affects, over 70% of adults say stress affects their physical health. APS Stress Report 2023. That's where I got this from. How does purpose pull us out of survival mode? Purpose gives the brain direction. It shifts the focus from what's wrong to what's meaningful, triggering calm, focus, and resilience. Now, why do people confuse productivity with purpose? Because modern culture rewards busy, busy, busy. Oh, we're busy. But busyness drains, purpose energizes. One fills the calendar, the other fills the soul. So the nervous system doesn't care how successful you look, it only knows whether you feel safe. Get this, you got to put this on your calendar. The nervous system doesn't care how successful you look, it only knows whether you feel safe. Isn't that the truth? So I wonder how many people are out there that are really paying mind to all of this, to their heart, to their soul. We're all busy. Oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. And there's always something, whether it's on a personal note, with your having your papers all in order and taking care of things and um, calling the phone company and getting your account straightened out because they made big errors. And the kid needs new shoes, new lunchbox. Got to find a certain breads because of the allergy. Oh, we all have that. But come on. Um, I said in one of my other shows, I have to write everything down. And with everything, and I'm looking at it right now, I have 7 things. It's Monday morning. I have 7 things written down that I absolutely must do. Now the list is going to get bigger during the day, but I am able to check things off as I'm working on everything. If they don't get written, if look, if I don't write them down, they don't get done. That's it. They just poof, go away, in the air somewhere, and they're not visible. So I got to write things down. And yes, I'm busy, but I'm also saying there's certain things that need to be done. And the other things that I really want to do, the creative side, I have to write them down too, and they will get done. So um, I like to work with wonderful soft music when I'm in my creative mode. And when I got to get things done, like boom, 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 1, 2, 3, and calling this one and that one. And, I don't need any soft music. That's an irritant then to me. But I'm not in a, I look, when I need to get things done, I go 300 miles an hour. It's like sitting in one of those fast trains that don't stop in a town. They just go vroom, right by it, right? Versus when you're in a hang glider type of thing, you know. So think of what your mind at what speed you're going. So when you need to get things done, it's a list, 10 things. You got to do this, 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 and this, the shortest period of time, let's just say. Or maybe you have all day. I don't. Sometimes I take all day, but not too often. I don't have time to waste, but that happens too. I want you to know that too. So certain things that need to be done, you got to go. Okay, here to give you an example, you got to go to the hairdresser at 10. At 12 o'clock, you got to get your nails done. At 2 o'clock, you're having lunch with your best friend. At 5 o'clock, you're having cocktails, and at 6:30, you're having dinner. So to me, that's constantly on the go. Okay, it's a different mindset, but you still have to go, 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 and you have to make sure that you're on time with everybody because that's just the way it is, and you'll have to travel maybe in between too. So, some people have a tighter schedule, and some people, or most of us, we're on a work schedule. Our work schedule looks different. So many times we have to do private things in between in our work schedule. We're forced sometimes to do this because we get unexpected phone calls from the doctors. We have to stop what we're doing and talk to the doctor about our child or about our own well-being. We got the diagnosis of something and so forth. So everybody's day schedule looks different, and everybody's mindset is accordingly. That's all I want to point out. So, the busyness, we're all busy. And nobody should judge, oh, you're busy with that? Oh, yeah, really? I do that in the heart. No, don't judge. We're all busy. Leave it at that. I'm not judging. You should not be judging. So, um, but all I want to point out is to really maybe just analyze how busy you are and how productive you are, and if it has purpose. And it's our focus is all about that you're doing things with purpose. There are some things we need to maintain daily, and other things we need to do with purpose. So I'm not talking about making your bed and making your breakfast. That goes under the regular maintenance. But everything else, how we spend our free time, what we do, where we go, if we go anywhere, um, what information we let into our minds, what shows we watch, what news we watch, how much and how often, and what we think and what dialogue we have with ourselves, what conversations we have with ourselves. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it 70% positive, 30%? What, you know what I'm saying. So, but we should have in the forefront the purpose. How can someone start this shift today? Practice intentional pauses. Before reacting, ask, am I surviving or creating? That split second begins rewiring the brain from fear to purpose. When the mind calms, the immune system listens. Okay. Well, I have to say, the mind is many times like a roller coaster. That's how I would put it. Many situations during the course of one day, it's almost like a roller coaster. You know, you get up in the morning, something breaks. Okay, you make do, you get out the door, you start driving to work. So, we've had stormy weather, the roads are congested, you're getting all mad, and so you arrive at work, and there you will really have a very hectic, you're being challenged every single hour with something. And that lasts all day. We have days like that. Remember? Sure, we do. So, uh, our minds can't always stay calm. I don't think that's possible. So, and when we're constantly being pushed, and it started early in the morning, the coffee machine breaks, something like that, right? So you have to drink instant coffee that you hate. Little irritants, that's what I'm trying to say. Little irritants are with you that particular day. And wouldn't you know, they're in the car, the windshield wiper doesn't work, or the water, the spritzer doesn't work. Little irritants. And then when you're at work, the irritants get bigger. Somebody is looking to you at you a certain way or saying something a certain way. We're already heated up. We're already ready. Our blood pressure is already up there. And I understand why it's very hard not to have a calm mind. I would even say, how is that even possible? Come on. It's like when I go, let's just say, when I go to an eye doctor, and eye doctors, they're very, very, with all respect, I'm already worked up. And especially before I sit in the chair and they start putting the lights on me and they're putting drops in, and who knows what else they have to do. My blood pressure is already up. And I'm not talking about a casual eye examination. I'm not talking about that. Um, Everything that we do, we can't always have a calm mind. Let's just leave it at that. And you know what, folks? I'm going for a break. I'm going to have a sip of water, and I'll be back here in a minute. This was delicious. I had a little lemonade. We're back from a break. You tuned into Life Talk with Mariette. I am Mariette on the web, lifetalkwithmariette.com, and visit our YouTube channel, Life Talk with Mariette. Subscribe and like. Now, the third segment is all about turning pain into power. And our title is How Purpose Becomes Medicine. Everybody has to have a purpose. So, segment 3 is turning pain into power. Stories of transformation and renewal. Why do some people grow through pain while others collapse under it? Those who grow find meaning in the struggle. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth, a renewal of strength, perspective, and gratitude after hardship. What does hardship mean? What does hardship mean? It means something different to everybody. Hardship can mean when you can no longer pay your bills because you lost your job. Hardship could mean a lot of things. Hardship could be financially, could be a pattern. Hardship means a lot when you lose a loved one. You lose your wife, your husband, a child, an aunt, an uncle, a sister, a brother. That's hardship. Adversity. Hardship could be losing your health on a temporary basis. Hardship could be losing your health on a permanent basis. Hardship is a broad topic. Many, many people I have met in my life were devastated when they lost their job, when they were let go. They were called into the office and said, "We no longer need you." Or they were told, "You're not doing a good enough job. Pack your bags." It's devastating. When people have health issues, I had a stroke. I learned to walk again. This was 1996. Not only did I have a medical challenge, but after that, a financial challenge, big time. And I can say, I know what it feels like when life is over from one second to the next, when changes take place from one second to the next. I have experienced that. The rest of us who have not experienced that, this sudden change, this 1 minute you could walk, you could move, the next minute you can't. That is devastating to experience that. And then to really have the hope that things could be the way they used to be. That's hard work, folks. Some people, and I remember, and I want to share this with you. I remember I said, when I was in the hospital, I was in 2 hospitals. "Dear God, if you let me walk again, I will help a lot of people." And I could understand how some people, we all have a different threshold. what we can carry before we give up. And other people start to fight. And I started to fight. I wanted my life restored, and I restored it. So somebody may lose hope because they lost a loved one through death, through divorce. They lost a child. They lost a four-legged friend who was their partner that they loved. I can feel for you. I know how important all of this is. And many times they can't pick themselves out of there anymore. They just stay in that pattern of hurt and pain and sorrow. And then it just becomes a habit, like everything else. Then their thoughts, they're hopeless, affect their choices and everything. So I've lived all of this. That's why I'm doing shows like the one we're doing today and my previous shows. They all have different topics, but I can understand when somebody gives up because they don't feel hope. But hope can be built over time when we try with little steps every single day. And instead of laying in the hospital bed, I gave myself chores to do, to be able to put my legs, my feet on the ground. And I couldn't right away. Went back to bed. The next day, I did the same thing. I was able to put my feet on the ground, on the floor. The next day, I was able to stand. And my goal was to go from the hospital bed over to the table where you would normally sit and have your food instead of the bed and that tray thing, with the wheels. And if one day I didn't get to reach that goal, I made sure it would go on the next day's list. I did that. This is how I worked on myself. And I was able to go to the table and sit down. And that was a big accomplishment. Over time, my next goal was to take my tray, my hospital food tray, walk outside the door and put the tray on the wagon in the hallway. I achieved that too over time. I have to tell you something. There was a lady in the room. We had two bedroom, two beds. And this lady had a stroke too, and she was at a party and she fainted, and it was not from alcohol. She passed out. So she worked for the post office, she told me. She was in her 50s. And we were on the seventh floor in one of the Hamburg hospitals. Seventh floor. That was the second hospital they put me in. A specialty hospital for strokes and whatever, And the first thing when I walked in, then they had this huge window, wide, like a landscape type of window, big, huge, wide, long window. And on the windowsill, all dead flowers, the flowers that they bring to the hospital. It's like you went to a graveyard, and they had the funeral 2 weeks ago, what the flowers looked like. That's exactly how I came in this room and what the flowers, what I saw on the window. Packed that whole windowsill. And that window must have been at least 8 foot long, just to give you an idea. All full of vases and dead flowers. Just a hint of green that the flowers, the leaves used to be green. They were brown now. So the first thing I did, I took one of the nurses aside and I said, the flowers have to go. This is what it's doing to me. It reminded me of death. And here I was fighting for my health, to gain my health back. You think I would tolerate looking at this? So that's the first thing they did. Over time, I started talking to the lady. You know how it is when you have a roommate, and oh, what are you here for? And this and that. And she had a boyfriend, and he would come every day, like around 1:30, and they would take a walk. And I said, "Oh, isn't that nice? That's wonderful." So, he would help her into the jacket, zip it up and button it up, and then, okay, see you later, have a nice walk. And her stroke didn't affect her walking like it did mine. But so anyway, so they left. And I was very happy for her that she was able to get some fresh air and had company. And even though I had a boyfriend at the time too, but that's not the point I want to discuss. So anyway, so here they come, and you know how it is in the hospital. They eat early. They serve um, dinner very early, like 4:30. Yeah, started a little earlier. 4:30 it comes. So okay. So here I'm doing my thing, out of bed again, slowly toward the table, sitting down and to eat. Now here my roommate comes back with a boyfriend. Okay. So they're all happy. Okay. So she sits at her table and her meal is served. And most of the time they would have sandwiches at night. So here I'm watching him. He's taking, he was preparing her sandwich. And I said, "Isn't this a nice thing?" Now, I'm not being sarcastic. I said, "This is a really nice thing." So, he makes the sandwich, the butter and the mustard and, the slices of cold cut, whatever. Here it comes. This is when I got really irritated, but I didn't say anything. He started cutting the bread in tiny little cubes. Now, the woman wasn't disabled. He's cutting the bread like you would do with an 8-month-old, cutting the bread in little cubes. That did it for me. And some of you would say, well, what's the big deal? Well, to me, it's a big deal. To me, you know what sign that is? I don't think I need to tell you what sign this is. To me, it was a very strong sign. I want people to support me. Yes, you can do it. Mariette, what is it that you want to, and not cut my bread. And it wasn't my bread that he cut, it was her bread. That to me is not support. You would do that to a little kid or somebody that severely, hurt. And she wasn't. She really wasn't. She was in there for observation, to find out why she had the stroke, why she passed out. She was not in the category as me, as the way, I came in, losing my mobility to walk. But when I see this kind of crap, that's no longer help or love. That's enabling you not to function like an independent person. That's the point I want to make. And that makes me mad. We need support when we have something very dramatic happening in our lives. We need the support. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you can do it. And I said one day, it was early me being in the hospital, in the first hospital, a team of doctors came. There were about three standing around. You know how they make their visits, hospital visits and room to room patient visits. And I said, Doctor, I can stand. And he said, okay, let show us that you can stand. And I tried to get out of bed and I couldn't. So, and of course they knew that because my um my I was still so off balance that I couldn't, my body just didn't react to me thinking, oh, I want to get out of bed. So I want you to think about, there's nothing wrong with helping a person, um, and making it comfortable for them, but there's also a very fine line. So, and I watch all of that. Maybe some of you will not, but I watch for all of that. That to me, I wouldn't want done because you would irritate the heck out of me. I needed support walking. And that was very uncomfortable because right away you think you have this fear of never gaining to walk again. But I understood as some time went on, I needed the help and I was okay with it. So being help and enabling, two different things. All that's all I want to say. So why do some people grow through pain? A very strong desire to restore their life. That was my thing. And others collapse. That's very true. Can pain truly heal us? Pain becomes a teacher when we listen. We strip It strips away illusion and forces us to align with what matters the most. Yes. And I believe that we have encounters in life we need to listen to. Some people, okay. These encounters, we have a chance to correct ourselves. And I look at my stroke as a life correction of doing good things for others. That's how I looked at it. And that's why I can do the kind of work that I'm doing today, because it's not bringing me the $1 million. And not that I ever hunted after the $1 million, but working with people and understanding where they're at. And if they have the capabilities to make more of themselves. That's what it's all. It's hard work because most of us, we start something new and then, it lasts for a day or so or for a week and that's it. It's hard work. It really is. What role does community play in transformation? Shared stories create belonging and normalize struggle. Purpose often grows from connection, not isolation. So pain doesn't define you, it refines you. And that's so true. Pain doesn't define you, it refines you. So let's go for a break. We are back from a break, and you tuned into Life Talk with Mariette. I am Mariette. On the web, lifetalkwithmariette.com, and visit our YouTube channel, Life Talk with Mariette. Subscribe and like us. And in our final segment 4, Living as Medicine, making purpose a daily practice. What does it mean to live as medicine? Yeah, I said that to myself. What does it mean? It means every choice, how we speak, eat, move, think, either harms or heals. Okay, I said, let's get into this a little deeper. Living purposefully is a form of daily dosage for the mind and body. Okay. Living purposefully is a form of daily dosage. Yes. Okay. All right. How do habits support or destroy purpose? Purpose grows through structure. Even 5 minutes of gratitude or reflection trains the brain toward meaning. I'm not going to dig out more words to explain it. I want you to think about it. I don't want to do the thinking for you. How do habits support or destroy purpose? Habits. We have good habits and bad habits? Let's start with the bad habits. Let's just say with the food. You're addicted to food and you can't stop eating. You're in this cycle. That's it. And you get bigger and bigger and bigger. I've gone through all of this. So that's a habit. And then we can't stop. So, um, I started looking at some of the habits that I have. Now, this eating, this, I want to call for myself this eating disorder I had destroyed the purpose of me living a healthy life. So I'm sabotaging my own life, meaning, and then I lose control and then I can't handle it anymore. Then you have high blood pressure, you have this, you have that. Oh my God. So, and I contributed to all of this, and I've gone through this, folks. So it's not, uh, look, I'm only human. Um, but purpose grows through structure. We have a structure, and I do have a structure, I reflect more than 5 minutes a day, and I'm grateful every day. I may not do it 24/7, this gratefulness, but gratefulness is inside of my dialogue, in my daily dialogue. MRI studies show that consistent positive reflection strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part tied to focus and hope. Again, I'll repeat. MRI studies show that consistent positive reflection strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part tied to focus and hope. What's one ritual anyone can start today? I would say the evening review. Ask what gave me energy today? What drained me? So, what gave me energy today? And that changes from day to day. And I can only give examples of myself. What gives me energy today is in the morning I ask, how do you feel? I don't really have to think these words, how do I feel? It's normal that I go internally and, okay, how do you feel? Well, today I feel I want to do something for the animals down at the shelter. I want to be able to bring them some food or ask them if I can be of help to get the word out or have them on my show. I think I should handle that today. I should pursue XYZ today in another town that I wanted to do for a while. That's been on the list that I didn't do. What drain me is if I'm hovering over the same thought over and over and over again and I haven't acted on it. And the reason I haven't acted on something is because I haven't been able to put the jumper cables on how to really pursue something. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So I'm thinking and I'm thinking and it's wearing me down. So, or when you deal with people, here's a perfect example. I know the feeling of when somebody's stuck because I've been stuck in my lifetime. So they talk, they talk, they talk, and they don't move because they're stuck. So, and every day they're engaging you in a conversation. And the conversation is not uplifting, it's not motivating, it's not empowerment. It's draining you and it's an irritant. And I just went through something like that. And I said, it's not a good time for us to do different things. It's not a good time. And I want to get rid of that person, but it's they're almost stuck to the my hip, not their hip, my hip. And unless, and I've been very polite so far, and I'm trying to chase them away without getting loud or an argument or anything. No, they're not going away yet because they still want to engage me in the conversation because that's their way of operating. So, and at some point I have to say, go away. At some point, if they keep it up. So, because it's not giving me energy, that's what I meant. How do we sustain purpose during hard times? By remembering that meaning doesn't disappear, it changes form. Sometimes the purpose is not doing, but enduring with grace. Medicine isn't always a pill. Sometimes it's patience. So purpose isn't an achievement, it's an atmosphere. Live in it, breathe it, and it becomes your daily prescription. So, folks, my closing statement would be what we have learned. We discovered that purpose is more than an idea, it's medicine for the body and soul. We've learned that meaning lowers, we have learned that meaning lowers stress, builds resilience, and restores energy in ways no prescription ever could. We have seen that we move from survival mode to purpose mode. Our entire inner chemistry shifts. We breathe differently, think differently, and start to feel alive again. We have heard how pain can become power when we give it meaning, and how daily purpose and even the smallest acts can steady our hearts and strengthen our health. Purpose doesn't erase life challenges, but it gives us direction through. It gives us directions through them. It reminds us that healing often begins not in the body, but in the story we tell ourselves about why we're here. That's great. I'm going to have to repeat that. It reminds us that healing often begins not in the body, but in the story we tell ourselves about why we're here. I love that. When we live with meaning, we become the medicine. So that's all for today. Till next time, I'm Mariette Kammerer.